I'm here at Rooster Rock State Park on the Columbia River. It's in the beautiful Oregon, Washington, Columbia River Gorge on the Oregon side of the river. Beautiful area. I did one painting here already. Did a painting of the river and the cliffs on the opposite side of the river. A couple little walkways, little piers that went out into the river. Here's my second painting for the day. I'm going to paint this scene. Now there's a lot of road noise here and I'm kind of standing on a slope, so I'm going to go with a smaller panel, an 8x10. I'm going with a birch panel that I gessoed myself. I really enjoy painting on that surface. It's really dynamic and nice texture. I used 3 or 4 coats of acrylic gesso and then 1 coat of latex alkyd over the top of that to give it an almost oil primed finish. It really lets the paint move around. So a nice surface to paint on and pretty inexpensive to make, just the time that's involved, which I kind of enjoy doing. Well, the light is changing fast, so I'm gonna have to move fast on this. Now it's kind of a complicated scene, so I'm gonna edit it. I'm going to take away some of these trees. I'll probably just leave the one big one, and what I'll do is I'll borrow the look and feel of that one that's partially in the background there. I love the look of that tree, so I'm going to replace the big one here with that smaller tree and edit out the little ones and just have a nice field of grass there. I think that'll be pretty. And then that background row of trees, I'm just going to make that kind of a non-detailed wall of color with shifts in shade. Oh wow, there's a beautiful hawk. And then for the mountains in the background, I just need to simplify it to 2 or 3 colors. That'll be really tough for me to do because I love detail. Man, I am just enchanted by that bird of prey. That is gorgeous. It's got something in its sights over there. So the complexity of the scene on a small panel, that's going to force me to simplify. And standing on this slope, and it's a little bit hot, so I think it's pretty good exercise. Oh, there's 2. I think those are hawk. 2 hawks circling over there. Beautiful. And I want to get done and move along to another location. I want to go paint at Multnomah Falls later this evening. When I was exploring around there last night, the light late in the evening was just fantastic, so I hope to catch that again, and I hope it's not too crowded. It's a Friday night, so it may be pretty busy, but we shall see. It's a popular place to go when it's hot because it's cooler there because of the waterfall. As always, thanks so much for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Quick rundown, I've got artist turpentine, a little bit of liquid in here, ivory black, cold gray, underpainting white, which is titanium white with a little bit of fast drying agent. I get that from Winsor & Newton. Cerulean blue, cobalt blue, got a little bit of phthalo blue out just in case I need it. There's some rich colors in this scene and coming up hopefully at Multnomah Falls. Ultramarine blue, ultramarine blue, sap green, burnt umber. Got kind of a mix here. Burnt umber in the front and transparent oxide brown in the back. Burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad red, cad yellow, Windsor lemon, Gamblin radiant lemon, yellow ochre. Now these 2 are really the same color. This just has more white, but this is a nice shortcut. This radiant lemon by Gamblin. If you mix enough white in this, you'll get here. But it's just nice having that shortcut sometimes to add a little touch of yellow without taking the value down, and it's a little less intentional. Then I've got some paints that I used just this morning, mixed from these same colors so I can blend them in to gray things out, or to, like this is a pretty rich green, I can use that almost directly on some of the leaves on the tree. And this is a nice greenish yellow. I'll start with a sketch, a little bit of burnt umber on a small brush, and then I'll go into the turpentine wash. I'm only going to wear one glove this time. My hands are sweating, so it's making the gloves really uncomfortable. So I've got a glove on my hand that I hold the paper towel or the rag in, because that will get most of the solvent and most of the paint on it. I'll try to keep my right hand, my painting hand, as clean as possible. It's just when it's hot out, it's uncomfortable to wear any kind of plastic glove. At least for me it is. The picture on my iPhone with the 1/3 lines added as just a rough guide for the initial sketch. Once I have that line drawing in, then I pretty much ignore the picture on my phone unless the light changes a lot. If the light changes, if clouds roll in, or if the sun moves faster than I expected, then that picture on my iPhone can be a good reference for shadow patterns or other distant shapes. Now for the turpentine wash. Out in the scene I mainly see burnt umber, cad yellow, and the blue of the sky. So I wash in a thin layer of cobalt blue for the sky, and then I fill in the major shadow patterns on the cliff faces with burnt umber. And then for the grass and the trees, I'm using just a little bit of the cobalt blue and some cad yellow. And as I move forward as I come forward, the foreground is more cad yellow, so less green. Alright, I just noticed that my camera kind of drifted and that the ISO was turned way up, so I don't know how that turpentine wash is going to look going on, but here's where it ended up. I used a brush with a little bit of turpentine on it to wipe away the lightest lights to create a value pattern. Looking at it now, the sky is too dark. I need to lighten that up a little more, so I think I'll go back in with a brush with some turpentine and lighten the sky just a little more, or maybe I'll try wiping it with a paper towel first. I was fighting a couple things with the composition here, and let me tell you what my thought process was. I want this to be the center of interest. This area is going to be pretty interesting, I think. It's got some warmth in the rocks now, where the sun's hitting the rocks, and it's got some cool in the shadows. So that'll be a neat effect, I think, going behind this tree. This tree in reality is tangent, meets the top of this hill, which is kind of bad design. So I don't want that. I'm going to stop it below. If that doesn't work, I may play with going up above. That might be interesting too, to make the tree feel taller, but then I'm covering up more of this interesting cliff face. So I need to play with that and just see what works. Also, in reality, there are divisions in this cliff face that are very regular. There's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 6 creases in that cliff face, and it looks natural here on site, but I know on my painting, if I make it that regular, it's going to look like a fence rail, and I don't want that. So I've made one kind of big section, one medium, one small. That might be kind of interesting. I'll play with it. If that doesn't work, then I may make this. I don't want this and this to be equal, so I need to break this up. So what I can do is just play with where that division line is without making these two equal. So you just don't want any kind of regular pattern because it looks fake then in a painting. These trees are a little taller in reality, so I may creep them up with the final paint color. And then this at the bottom is a rich yellow-green. And I'm thinking that the value here may need to be a little lighter to get it to read against this band of shadow, but I'll play with that as well. So I'm going to start mixing up some colors. I'll start with the sky and work into that mountain. Alright, I've got some colors mixed up now for the sky. Over on the left-hand side there, kind of a more warmish lavender for high up, and a more yellowish blue, almost white for down close to the mountain. And I've got some cooler, darker grays mixed up for the cliff face, shades of blue and lavender, and then also some very grayed out greens, darker and lighter for the trees on those hills. Gamsol out now. The sun is coming from this side, so as I go this way, I'm going to lighten the sky up more, and as it goes this way, it gets darker. I'm correcting the shape of the drawing, correcting the shape of the mountain just a little bit as I put this paint in. Not being too careful, I want it to be a little bit random. Shadows have moved. I'm staying with the shadow pattern that I observed earlier. I like it better than what I'm seeing right now. started pre-mixing my colors a few years ago. I heard from a couple artists that I follow, Richard Schmid, Mark Boedges, and there's a channel on YouTube, Draw Mix Paint I think it is. They all really spoke up for pre-mixing. And I find it really helps to keep your colors clean. When you just dip into pure paint with your dirty brush, not only do you kind of contaminate the paint that you're dipping into, but you're also contaminating every mix of paint that you put then on your painting. If you instead use a clean palette knife to mix the color and then dip into that with a clean brush, it helps keep that color clean. I also find that it helps me to compress my values. So another piece of advice I heard a few years ago was try to group your painting into as few value families as you can. So if you have a light value, a mid-tone, and a dark, if you can get away with the painting in 3 values, that'll be a stronger painting than if you have 10 values, lots of different mid-tone, lots of values in between white and black. So mixing helps me. I can group the colors that I mix into similar value families. I also find that I can place the colors next to each other on my palette and compare value easily there. And I also find that there's more of a chance that I'll have a color harmony at the end, because in each mix I can put a little bit of the same color. So if the painting like this one is predominantly cad yellow, I can make sure there's a little bit of cad yellow in almost every mix, and that leads to color harmony. Okay, that's pretty good for the background hills. I like that abstract pattern and real simple shapes. That reads pretty good from a distance. So now I'll mix up some colors for the trees. I'll go with a slightly more intense, just slightly more chroma in this row of trees, and then my most intense colors in this tree here. And then I'm not sure how far I'll get on that foreground. I may leave that pretty rough. Alright, I've got a few more colors mixed up here. I've got the dark brown grayed out, dark browns, greens, and lighter grayed out greens and yellows of that background wall of trees. And then over here I've got some richer colors mixed up for the tree that I want to stand out as in front of that wall of the trees. This is the tree that I really like. I like how the trunk is really visible, the branches are really visible, so I'm going to put that in place of this larger, bushier tree that's kind of blocked by the tree in front of it, and just see how that looks left alone. here's the finished painting. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad I went small, helped me simplify. I like the shadow patterns, the abstract pattern to the shadows on the rock. I think this wall of trees is pretty effective as a background for this kind of more interesting tree. And the foreground is just really just a few brush strokes. Got that in. I like it. Had fun. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here and head over to Multnomah Falls and see if there's a place for me to stand. It may be too crowded. As usual, I'll take this back to the studio. I don't think I need many revisions on this one. I kind of like how it went. It was fun. I really like painting on these gessoed birch panels. Welcome back to my studio. I've got this little 8x10 back now, mounted on the utility board. It's been almost 2 months since I painted it down at Rooster Rock State Park, if you can believe that. Time's really flying this summer. It was a nice day, a little bit hot, so I went kind of quick, and I like it. It's kind of a little rougher, especially this foreground is really pretty abstract. There's just a couple things I want to adjust. There's a couple lines of dark that jump out to me as being out of place. So the first thing I'll do is I'll scrape it down with a round cornered palette knife, knock any big edges off, any real thick paint that's catching the light, any dust or debris that got caught in the paint on the day I painted it. And then I'll re-oil it in with a little bit of liquid. I'll dilute the liquid with a little bit of Gamsol and then wipe off the excess with some clean t-shirt cloth. So I want to lighten these dark areas. They're just a little too dark right now. And also fill in any white patches. If I scrape any paint off and leave a white patch, then I'll retouch that. I want to match these colors really carefully. I'll use the same paints I used that day. I've been noticing my progress. All this practice I've been doing painting outside, painting plein air for the last 2 or 3 years is really paying off. I'm touching up these paintings less and less in the studio, which is great to see. It's a great feeling to make that progress. And it's helping my studio paintings as well. I'm feeling a lot more confident with bolder brush strokes, and I can also see the impact on my color harmonies and my ability to paint a scene and catch a mood quickly. So it's really paying off. One other thing I want to adjust, I want to darken the trunk of this tree just a little bit. It's a little vibrant right now, and then also lighten the foliage. It's all a little too close to the same value. So I'll try throwing a light glaze over the lighter areas of the tree and make it feel more like a mass that's being hit by light coming from this direction. Alright, I'll make those changes and I'll show you the result. Here's the finished painting, little 8x10 plein air oil painting of Crown Rock down in the Columbia River Gorge between Oregon and Washington. Yeah, I was able to get away with very little touch-up on this one. I lightened that dark line here and here just a little so it wasn't jumping forward so much. I actually added a little bit of that same gray down in the trees to make them recede back a little further. And then I brightened this side of this tree. Then when I stepped back and looked at it, it seemed to be missing something. This tree seemed to be a little too heavy, a little out of balance for the painting. So I added this little tree at the intersection of this 1/3 line and this 1/3 line with a nice dark trunk and kind of in the shadow of this big tree. Kind of an imbalance to counteract this tree being so dominant. And I think it kind of adds a little bit of harmony because there's two main hills, cliff faces, and so there's two trees, but the size of this one is kind of unexpectedly small. And this little guy was in one of my reference photos, kind of in that location, so it worked out. I was able to place that little tree right in the shadow of the bigger tree, give it a nice warm, almost red, black trunk, so it jumps out against that band of light yellow grass behind it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I like how it turned out. Sure was a nice day and good practice to paint quickly. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy the videos, getting outside with me and then coming back into the studio and learning with me as I touch up these little paintings. Thanks for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Hop over to my website, sign up for my newsletter. You can hear about recent shows and specials. Also, check out these little plein air paintings. I sell them at a pretty good price. I don't charge a whole lot for them because they're kind of practice for me. Sometimes they turn out pretty neat, but I don't need to charge a lot for them. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.